Imagine being a parent, coming home to discover that your children's lives were brutally taken while you were away. This heart-wrenching reality struck the Tan family in Geylang Bahru, turning their peaceful home into the scene of a horrific crime. 4 innocent lives lost in a single night. Today, we explore this chilling, unsolved mystery, where every corner of Geylang Bahru holds a clue, and every unanswered question deepens the enigma. Let's delve into the story, shall we? Welcome to Singapore, a city of contrasts where tradition collides with modernity and East meets West in a dazzling display of diversity. In the 1970s, this vibrant metropolis pulsated with life, offering a tapestry of experiences waiting to be explored. Amid its lush green parks and futuristic architecture, you would find bustling markets filled with the aroma of local delicacies and neighborhoods echoing with the sounds of daily life. The blend of Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Eurasian cultures created a unique, harmonious mosaic that defined Singapore's identity. From the historic shophouses of Chinatown to the bustling hawker centers, every corner of the city offered a glimpse into its rich heritage and rapid progress. Amidst the bustling streets and towering buildings, there are quieter corners of the city. One such place is Geylang Bahru, rich in history yet cloaked in mystery. The name Geylang originates from a word that means mill or factory, reflecting its history of coconut oil presses and mills. By the 1960s, Geylang transformed into Pasar Geylang Serai, which is now famously known as the vibrant Geylang Serai Market and Food Center. This renowned market continues to offer a wide variety of delicious foods to this day. In this historic and bustling neighborhood, a family of 6 found their home in Block 58, Geylang Bahru. Here, amidst the hustle and bustle, they shared laughter, meals, and love. In the quiet dawn of January 6, 1979 in Singapore, the Tan family began their morning routine. At 6:30 a.m., Mr. Tan Kwan Chai and Madam Lee Mei Ying rose from their beds, greeted by the gentle light seeping through their curtains, as they made their way to the kitchen in the small one-room flat. The scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, coaxing their senses awake. With practiced efficiency, they prepared for the day ahead, knowing their minibus service awaited, ready to take the neighborhood children to school as the sun rose. As usual, after Mr. Tan and Madam Lee left for work, they would call home around 7:10 a.m. to ensure their children were awake and ready for school, their way of staying connected and ensuring everyone was waking up on time. Their children, Tan Kok Peng, aged 10, Tan Kok Hin, aged 8, Tan Kok Soon, aged 6, and their sister Tan Chin Ni, aged 5, typically responded to their mother's wake-up call by getting out of bed and starting their morning routine. The 3 brothers attended Bendemeer Road Primary School, while their little sister attended a kindergarten nearby, just minutes away from their home. With school starting promptly at 8 a.m., they knew they needed to allow enough time to prepare themselves for the day ahead. However, on this unfortunate day of January 6, 1979, when Madam Lee dialed home 3 times at the same usual timing, there was no answer. She initially thought that they might be sleeping in, trying to ease herself amidst a growing sense of unease. Each ring seemed to echo in the silence of the empty apartment, a troubling sign that something wasn't right. Madam Lee felt a growing worry in her heart as she continued to dial without any response. It was a sense of dread that lingered, casting a shadow over what should have been a routine morning. Feeling anxious, the parents reached out for assistance, knowing they were close enough for a neighbor to check on the kids. In the 1970s, Singapore was relatively safe, but neighbors still had a strong bond reminiscent of the kampong spirit. a sense of community where everyone looked out for each other. Back then, people relied on each other in times of need, unlike today, where we sometimes don't even recognize our neighbors while bumping into them at the grocery store. All you get is a smile, which is nice enough, I suppose. The neighbor then proceeded to knock on the door and called out for the kids, yet received no response. With a growing sense of worry, the neighbor went back to her home to inform their mother of the situation. Unable to contain their concern any longer, the parents decided to leave work and hurried back home, arriving around 10 a.m. When Lee, the mom, got home, she opened the door and found the house empty and quiet, an eerie silence settling in that shouldn't be present with 4 lively kids in the house. Soon, Lee was about to make a horrifying discovery. As she made her way to the bathroom to search for them in the one-room flat, she was not prepared for the horrifying scene that awaited. Inside laid her children's lifeless bodies, piled on top of each other in t-shirts and underwear. To compound the horror, they bore numerous wounds, including multiple slash wounds to the daughter's face, revealing the extent of the brutality inflicted upon them. Such a sight was unimaginable, a nightmare coming to life in their own home. The shock and devastation must have been overwhelming, as they grappled with the unthinkable reality of what had transpired while they were away. One can't fathom the sorrow of seeing the lifeless presence of the children they've watched grow and thrive, especially considering the mother fainted a couple of times in response to the devastating scene. Meanwhile, her neighbor rushed to call the police, hastening the authorities' response to the unfolding tragedy next door. Upon the police arrival, they were faced with the horrifying aftermath of the children's slaughter. Even seasoned crime investigators accustomed to handling murder cases were taken aback by the severity of the tragedy. Former investigator with the elite homicide squad of the Criminal Investigation Department, Assistant Superintendent Daniel Tan, was visibly shaken upon reaching the scene. Despite his experience probing numerous murders, the brutality of this crime left him deeply disturbed. Later, he was quoted in the media saying, "It is sickening to see the dead little children. It's so gruesome. It's terrible." This haunting image, he admitted, would never leave him, as word spread quickly, possibly fueled by nosy neighbors, which you can surely relate to. Hundreds of onlookers gathered in the area, prompting the police to cordon off the flat. Thankfully, a team from the homicide squad of the Special Investigations Section, led by Acting Deputy Superintendent Gan Boon Leong, assumed control of the scene. Initially, everyone, including the press, was barred from entering the area for fear that evidence may have been accidentally disturbed. However, 2 hours into the investigation, the police made the decision to invite one member from the newspaper press into the flat. This decision might not have been the wisest, but it was made, perhaps to contain the urge of the people gathered outside. Turning our focus back to the investigation, the police found that there was no forced entry into the flat, and it wasn't ransacked, nor were there any items reported to be missing. Perhaps this suggested that the suspect could be someone who had access to the flat, or someone they knew. As reported by the Straits Times, detectives investigated the possibility that the killer entered the flat with a key that was reportedly lost by Mrs. Tan recently. It's worth noting that the locks were not changed. The pathologist's findings revealed that each child had a minimum of 20 deep slash on their bodies, with additional slash found on their heads. Chin Ni, the youngest, had multiple deep slash on her face. Such grievous wounds may indicate a revenge killing, according to the police. Moreover, evidence suggests that the eldest son put up a fight, as several hair strands were found clutched in his hands, believed to belong to the perpetrator. Furthermore, his right arm was found to be almost severed, indicating the ferocity of the attack. It's also worth mentioning that investigators theorized that the killer then took the 4 children, who were probably still asleep at the time, one by one into the bathroom where they were killed. This likely explains why neighbors did not hear any cries from the children. Investigators also noted that the suspect had apparently cleaned himself off before leaving, as blood stains were found at the kitchen sink. These additional details only deepened the mystery surrounding the case, leaving investigators baffled as they searched for any clue that could lead them to the perpetrator. Furthermore, it was revealed that a cleaver taken from the kitchen, along with a dagger, was utilized as the murder weapon, but both items remained undiscovered. After investigations and the collection of crime scene photographs, as well as examination by the pathologist, the bodies were wrapped in polythene sheets and then transported to the mortuary. Soon after, the police conducted interviews with over 100 of the Tan family's neighbors and issued public appeals for witnesses, aiming to shed light on the situation and gather crucial information. They contacted a man who claimed to have witnessed the brutal child killer responsible for massacring the 4 Tan children in their flat on the day of the killings. The witness, who had previously kept silent, reportedly observed Chin Ni, the youngest daughter at 5 years old, grappling with a man in their kitchen from his flat across Block 58. However, no further evidence was given on the description of the killer. Despite receiving various eyewitness claims, most of them turned out to be dead ends, leaving the investigation at a standstill. Although there is one individual, the neighbor 68-year-old Yam Yin Tin, who usually sat outside the common corridor outside her flat as part of her daily routine. She would have seen anyone passing through and entering the home. Coincidentally, on that day itself, she was in her house, apparently washing her hair, and claimed to have seen nothing. But the question arises, was she bought off by the killer, or was her claim even useful in the first place? It provides no insights or help to the Tan family. So we're left wondering, what really happened when she was away during that point of time? It's like hitting a dead end with her involvement, isn't it? Another witness, a taxi driver, came forward with an unusual account. He told investigators that he had picked up a man in his 20s not far from the crime scene at approximately 8 a.m. on the day of the incident. According to the driver, the man walked with a lurch and had bloodstains on the left side of his body, which further raised suspicion. Additionally, the man was seen trying to conceal a knife from the driver. Interestingly, the knife was never recovered. It reportedly struck the door and fell out when the man exited the vehicle. The driver dropped him off at Lavender Street, marking the end of this intriguing encounter, or so we thought. Just another day for the taxi driver, encountering a passenger with a knife and bloodied clothes while working. As if it's just part of the morning commute. Hilariously inconvenient, especially considering it's not Halloween, and he's clearly standing out. Soon after, this mysterious individual was then recognized by Mr. Tan, who matched the description given by the officers from the taxi driver. The father identified him as a neighbor known as Uncle, who would frequently borrow a phone from the family to make calls to his home in Malaysia, as not every household owned a phone back in 1970s Singapore. The uncle was then brought into a police lineup, where the taxi driver identified him as the passenger he picked up on the day of the murder. Subsequently, the uncle and his sister moved out of Block 58. While he remains a prime suspect, the authorities' decision to release him due to insufficient information leaves many questions unanswered. In addition to the already tragic incident, it was said that 2 weeks after the tragic incident, the murderer took a disturbing step by sending a Chinese New Year card to the Tan family. In the card, it depicted children playing and bore the chilling message, "You can have no more offspring," followed by a sinister laugh. The card was signed by the murderer, inflicting further agony on the already traumatized family. This piece of trash was quite the lowlife. Ironically, a Chinese New Year card usually brings wishes of luck, health, and prosperity. However, this one delivered a starkly contrasting message of dread and despair. Consider this. Doubts arise about a suspect's release due to lack of evidence, and at the same time, the family receives a Chinese New Year card. Put 2 and 2 together, and it seems the murderer isn't quite the brightest bulb in the box. Of course, this is just speculation on our part. Immediately following the incident, the residents of Geylang Bahru were so frightened that most of them came together to form their own vigilante groups. Reporters who visited the area in the past 2 days to interview new residents about the slayings were told of their fear of the vicious killer and the protective measures they had taken. In other words, they were ready to beat the living daylights out of the murderer upon contact. This shared sense of fear and community action serves as a stark reminder of the impact this tragedy had on the neighborhood. The resilience of Mr. Tan, Madame Lee, and the residents of Geylang Bahru reflects a determination to protect their loved ones and seek justice. As we remember the innocent victims, we also honor the strength and unity of a community forever changed by this horrific event. Let's journey back to today, with insights from the Straits Times, the most widely circulated newspaper in Singapore. It was reported that 2 days after the tragic events of January 7, 1979, the children were laid to rest at Choa Chu Kang Cemetery. Their grandmother, Madam Chan Seao, 66, carefully placed their cherished belongings, school bags, books, and toys, beside their graves. The siblings were buried in their best clothes, with their favorite toys and school bags by their side. The untimely end of these young lives crushed countless dreams, missing out on graduations, pursuing fulfilling careers, finding love and starting families of their own, and the joy of watching their children and grandchildren grow. Pictures of the Tan siblings, frozen in moments of innocent joy, shy smiles, and playful mischief, decorate their tombstones. These images now stand as poignant reminders of a family tragedy, serving as lasting memorials to lives cut short unfairly. They gaze out at us, a solemn testament to all that was stolen from them by the murderer. Despite this immense tragedy, their parents, Mr. Tan and Madam Lee, found solace in their shared grief. They transitioned from their minibus services to work in a plastic bag manufacturing firm, where they found stability and support. Remarkably, the ordeal brought them even closer. Madam Lee, who had previously undergone sterilization after the birth of her last child, was fueled by hope and resilience. She later underwent a reversal of the procedure and was blessed with the arrival of a healthy baby boy, bringing light and joy into their lives once more. As of today, 45 years have passed, yet the dirtbag responsible for such heinous acts remains at large, a dark shadow looming over the memories of the innocent victims. Despised by all who hear of its vile deeds, there is a collective hope that justice will one day prevail and the case will finally be solved, bringing closure to the grieving hearts left behind. In our theory, the uncle emerges as the most likely suspect in this tragic case. Based on information from articles and official investigations, a crucial detail stands out: the Tan family's loss of a house key weeks prior to the incident. Surprisingly, they didn't change the locks. This oversight could have provided the uncle with the opportunity to gain access during his visits. Given the children's familiarity with their uncle, it's plausible they didn't react with alarm when he appeared, which would explain the absence of cries or struggles heard by neighbors. Thank you for listening to the first episode. If you've stayed until this point, we appreciate your time and attention. We encourage you to share your thoughts and theories about what might have happened to the Tan family. Your insights could offer new perspectives on this perplexing case, so feel free to drop a comment below with your ideas. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking and subscribing. We also value your feedback on our editing and storytelling. Let us know in the comments how we can improve, and stay tuned for future episodes.